this is Kat with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to wire wrap Swarovski crystals onto a headband. So we're going to be using some artistic wire to wrap our Swarovski round beads onto our headband. And I have an example here that I already have done. Now this uses 4mm beads, and those are going to be that lovely pink color there. And then I used 6mm beads. I just alternated the beads to give a little bit of a beautiful little kind of crown effect. So in the video today that I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to be using 6mm beads, just so you can kind of see how different it can look. Now, there are a lot of variations to this, and I just kind of wanted to talk about a few of them. So I brought out some extra colors of beads. Now this is just a very small selection of the beads that we have here at Beadaholique.com, but I just wanted to kind of talk to you a little bit about the possibilities. So you could do this couple of different colors in Swarovski rounds, and these are 6mm, and I just wanted to kind of point out that if you wanted to do something where you graduated the 4 and the 6, a great option is to choose the same color, but do it in both sizes. You can also add just a lovely little crystal just to give it a little bit of extra sparkle there, and I mean this really just shines and shimmers. It's really, really gorgeous. And you can also choose some of these slightly more saturated colors. And of course, I'm going to provide links for all of this down below, so if you're curious about any of the colors that you see here or want to find out more about some of the other Swarovski crystals, be sure to head over to Beadaholique.com to do that. So today I'm going to be using the Fuchsia beads here, and we're going to be using artistic wire in 26 gauge. Now mine is sort of already sprung off the spool there, but if you're good and keep your wire tight, it'll stay nice and tucked underneath there. So I use silver on this one, so I'm going to do a version of gold here, and I think that'll help you guys see it just a little bit better. And then the only tools that you're going to need is you're just going to need a pair of flush cutters, and then you're going to need a pair of wire straightening pliers. Now this is sort of optional, it's just in case your wire gets kinked, but it's always good to kind of have on hand. And then you're going to need a ruler because we're going to be measuring out the amount of wire. Now depending on where you want to start around the headband, you could also just do a little focal at the top, or you could go all the way around. So it just depends on you. But I will say this, so by looking at my example here, I'm about, let's go ahead and measure that just so you can kind of see. I started this one to be about 2 inches or so from that little bottom piece there. And the reason I chose to do it that way is because this is the portion that's going to sit behind your ear, so you wouldn't want these beads kind of knocking into the back of your ear. I think that would make it a little uncomfortable. And I'm going to show you how to kind of tuck that wire up and underneath there when we start and finish so that you really don't have any wires poking you. But I will say that you do want to do this all in one final swoop with one thing of wire. That way you don't have to kind of add on new wire because that can be a little bit difficult. All right, so if you have all of your supplies, we are ready to go ahead and get started. All right, so I am using, like I said, the 26 gauge artistic wire, and I'm just going to kind of gently sort of untwist some wire here. Now for this video, I'm going to do a nice little focal that's kind of going to sit on top of the head like a little crown. And this is great to choose colors, and this would be perfect for bridal or prom, evening, bridesmaids, flower girls. There's just a lot of options here and a lot of different colors of Swarovski crystals. Now you can do this with other beads as well, but for today I'm going to be using those crystals. And let's just make sure my wire's not getting kinked or anything. All right, there we go. Just trying to straighten my wire here. And I'm just using my hands now because I don't want to use those wire straightening pliers at this point. All it's going to do is kind of work hard on that for me. All right, so I'm going to get my beads out of the way here, bring in my ruler, and we're going to cut off about, let's try 5 feet of the artistic wire. So it's 3, 4, and 5. All right, so I'm just going to clip that with my flush cutters, and then I'm going to set my little spool of wire aside and my cutters. All right, so now is when we're going to want to take our pliers there and just kind of run it down just once through, just to help straighten that wire. And you can see that it's still staying in that nice little big loop there, but I just want to kind of run it down just to make sure that we're going to get any of those little kinks. But don't worry, because you're going to be handling this wire, and it is fairly thin. In wire, the higher the gauge, the thinner the wire. All right, so I'm gonna kind of, I know you won't be able to see that, but I kind of have my wire hanging off my table here just to kind of get it out of my way. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna create a nice little focal here at the top. So go ahead and go onto the back side of your wire. See it has this, or I'm sorry, the back side of your headband, and you can see that it has these nice little sort of ridges. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our wire facing the top there and kind of wrap it around just before where we want to start. So I'm going to so I have my wire in a kind of little L shape there, if you can kind of see that. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap around and catch that wire. All right. Now this is the hardest part anytime you kind of start wire wrapping, so you want to give yourself a little bit extra. So you can just see I just flipped it around a little bit. All right, here we go. And I'm just wrapping it again, going up the length of the headband. And I'm actually going to grab that little piece of wire there and kind of pull it so it's a little snug. You know, I'm actually going to start that over again because I don't like the way that looked. And this is why I always say have extra wire. All right, so I'm just going to take that little piece off. Okay, let's try again. All right, wire wrapping can be difficult, but you just kind of, using artistic wire is a great way to do it. It's a really nice soft wire, and it's really great to use because it's tarnish resistant. Okay, so there we are with our little L one more time. And now I'm just going to try to hold it a little bit tighter. And I apologize if my hands are in the way, but all I'm doing is wrapping it around that headband, right? Just like so. And I'm going to try to wrap it again. And here I'll show you, I'll turn it around in just a minute once I get it going. All right, so now I have 2 wraps on the inside there. And on the outside, I'm getting those wraps started. So I'm just going to kind of squish that together there. All right, this is why you want to start with a couple of wraps just to get it going. And you can see that I'm wrapping going up towards the center top of that headband. And I'm just going to keep going around and around. I'm keeping good tension because I don't want it to look slack. And just make sure that your wires are coming on top. And you can just sort of push it together there. All right, so there we go. So now we've started our wrapping. So you're always going to want to continue going in the same direction there and making sure that it stays nice and tight. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the back, and I have my little tail here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that little piece off. And I'm going to do 1 or 2 more wraps just to cover up that little end piece there. There we go. All right, so now we're ready to start adding our beads. So I'm going to bring that wire, and I'm going to come up towards the top, the outer side of my headband here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach over here, and I'm going to add on a little bead. And go ahead and slide that all the way down. All right, there we go. And now, because the bead is so high, it has such a high profile, you're going to want to kind of take it out to the side about 1/4 of an inch or so and kind of bend the wire so that you create this little place for it to sort of sit right there, just like so. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to wrap once over. And for my design here, I'm just going to do twice over until I want to add my next bead. All right, and then we go and we slide it all the way down. Now it's tough to work with this much wire, so just be patient, just try not to get it kinked, and you'll be doing just fine. And again, let me just show you that again. So we'll kind of go up, and we're going to kink it a little bit to give it that nice little profile there. And then we're going to wrap it around once, wrap it around twice, and then we are ready to add our next bead. All right, so I'm going to continue to do that all the way across the top here, just giving a nice little focal there. And then I'm going to show you kind of how to finish it on the other side. But it's the same technique. It's really fun and easy. And again, this is something great to do. You could sort of do this with various different beads. Round gemstones would also be really lovely to do this with. And the gauge of the wire is just something that, you know, I prefer to use 26 because you're doing enough wraps where it's going to be secure enough. Like you can just sort of see how nice and secure that is. They're not moving around at all. If you went with something a little bit lighter to try to accommodate, let's say, the size hole of a pearl or something, you might be compromising some of the sturdiness of the piece. But just play around with it. And like I said, artistic wire is really, really wonderful. They have 28 gauge, they have 30, so there's a lot of options there as well. You could, of course, use a thicker gauge wire, but just remember that this is going to be sitting against your head, so you don't want to have too many lumps and bumps down here with that wire. All right, so I'm going to finish this up, and then I will meet you back here on the other side. All right, so you can see that I've done a nice little focal, and this is going to be a great design if you're ever doing an updo and you just want to kind of set that into the hair and have a nice little sort of little piece of sparkle on the top. Because if you go all the way down, you know, and you have an updo, you risk it kind of getting caught in the hair, and nobody wants to try to take that out at the end of the night. All right, so we have this beautiful little focal here. So I finished it off, and I've wrapped as though I was going to add another bead. So what you're just going to do is you're just going to kind of take and wrap a couple more times here. And what I'm going to start to do is I'm going to start to loosen a little bit of my wire work there, just because I want to kind of create a little gap on the back for my wire to kind of stick through. So I'm not wrapping quite as tightly. I know it's kind of hard to tell on the video here, but you just want to wrap it a few times just to kind of really, really secure it. And then on this last one here, what I'm going to do is I have a little extra wire, so I'm going to kind of trim it off just a little bit. There we go. So I have just about 6 inches kind of sticking out there. All right, so I kind of have my last little wire wrap a little further open. Actually, I'm going to do one more here and kind of leave it in the back. And I know this is a little difficult to see, but I'm going to show you here in a second. So we have a nice little sort of gap in the back there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of thread that wire down through that first little wrap. And it's kind of, in essence, creating a little wire knot. So what I want to do is just kind of bring that and really just sort of pull it tight. And just make sure that that wire wrap is going to sit nice and tight there on the edge. And this again is another spot to use those little pliers there. And if you just kind of pinch it and scrunch it down there, that'll keep that wire on the back and out of the way. All right, and then you can just take your flush cutters and get in there nice and tight and just trim it off. There we go. So now we have a nice clean little sort of finished end there. And you can just, again, with your pliers, just kind of squish it together because like I said, we made those loops a little bit looser. And you can also use a pair of chain nose pliers to do this step as well. All right, there we go. All right, so that is how you just sort of wire wrap beads on there. Like I said, you can go all the way around, you can start halfway down, you can create a nice little pattern to create a little tiara or a little crown. So lots of fun things to do with this very easy technique of wire wrapping. You just go around and around, and you can create beautiful pieces for prom, evening, and bridal wear. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can get all of these supplies and see even more videos at beadaholique.com.